I'll always remember the day when I took the Myers-Briggs type indicator test. I was in college and I scored INFJ. Everything made perfect sense, man. It's like, while simultaneously though making me slightly depressed because of just how accurate this test was. And I've never really been one to, want to put myself in a box, labels, like I hate those things, honestly. But reading the description just kind of gave me this understanding of like this mystery that I've like always had about myself. And like just learning like, okay, like I'm not as weird, or I don't have, as many loose screws as I thought I did. So like reading that, honestly, for like a solid month, I was like just in this journey to unravel like this personality and make sense of like what my life had been, up to this point. Growing up, both my parents were sensor types, and so I was always just kind of like this puzzle to them. My mom would always tell me stories of like when I was young, she would just like hold me and I would just like stare at people with this like really judgmental like look on my face, just kind of like, and I think that's like when my parents were like, oh wow, like he's definitely a little bit of a thinker, because INFJs are like just highly sensitive people to energy and their environment. We grow up in a way like just observing all of that stimulus around us rather than choosing to like directly engage in it. And so over time you start to develop this like preference for observing rather than speaking. There's this hesitation because one of two things: maybe you think that the other person is not really going to comprehend what you're going to say, it's going to get lost in translation, like whatever you're trying to articulate, or that person simply just doesn't care. And that's a terrifying thing when you are vulnerable or you're open about something and then you feel like it's not, like that level's just like not reciprocated back towards you for some reason. For INFJs, like, dude, that sucks. You have such a unique non-linear way of processing and conveying information, and it's not that you don't want to share like whatever that information is, but you want to make sure that that person will fully be able to comprehend and receive like what you're trying to say. Like I know for me, sometimes I definitely still struggle to like be my most authentic self, because it's like so much easier to project this like small fragmented version of my personality to other people for the sake of like the social situation and fitting in than risk being misunderstood. I think that's why it's so important for the INFJ to choose to be around people that can provide that level of, trust and vulnerability, but also not just that, but there is a conscious effort made from the other person to like truly understand. That's a love language, man. Just like being able, if you really want to like stir the chili, or like, dude, understand someone, that's sexy. And I think a lot of times what's really unfortunate is we will hang out with people as a means to evade loneliness, and it's not always productive because you can get kind of lost in someone else's world. Because here's the thing, is like what's more exhausting than being misunderstood is trying to be someone you're not for the sake of fitting in. Charles Bukowski, he's like one of my favorite poets. He wrote this poem called The Genius of the Crowd, and there's a quote in it where he says, beware the average man, beware the average woman, beware their love. Their love is average, it seeks average. And segueing off that quote, a lot of the times when I feel like my motivation is failing, I think about this notion of being average and living half-heartedly and maybe just having friends for the sake of having friends, not really having any purposeful direction in life. Is this idea that like, man, am I just gonna live this basic life so ignorant and so blind to the beauty of the universe and people around me? And that scares the hell out of me. I think another way that INFJs feel misunderstood is a lot of times I think end up in relationships that feel very one-sided, like that other person is not able to reciprocate, that level of understanding, because you have this innate, almost like psychic ability to not just understand things from multiple perspectives of people, but you can also feel from multiple perspectives. And I think that's why a lot of INFJs feel like they're old souls, because it's like they can put themselves in someone else's shoes in a way that coincides with those experiences. It's like if somebody's telling me a story and I'm really locked in, like I'm really engaged, like I literally will feel exactly what they're feeling. I can't even describe it, but it's like if it's somebody I care about and I'm present in the moment, I will literally walk away from that situation with that emotion that they were articulating. And dude, that can last for hours. That can last for a really long time. And you've got to be careful, because you want to make sure that those, because it's like if you're with some narcissist or, someone that's always like bringing their emotional baggage to you or whatever, that can be super exhausting. But if this is some experience where somebody's coming to you or someone is like going through a rough time, you're able to sit with them and process whatever they're going through, those emotions, and then that can make for a really good friend. Like you can be like, dude, you can be such a good friend to people. But man, I would just say like reserve that special space that you have to give, and reserve it for the best people. Reserve it for the people that truly, deserve that from you, assuming you're a good person. I remember a few years ago I had this like little long-haired dachshund. It was like seriously the cutest thing ever. And I was going out of town for like a week, and I got one of my coworkers to watch, my dog. He and his wife had 2 little girls. One of them had like real bad like autism, like something was off with her. And I remember like dropping the dogs off. I meet the daughters, and I go on this trip, and then I come back, and I go in their house. They invite me in. I sit down with them for like an hour, and they're showing me pictures of like the 2 girls with the dog and like all the fun they had. And man, just like this little girl, dude, she like was so happy that she got to play with this dog and make memories. You could just tell, man, that she like loved this dog. His name was Stuart. Dude, just like seeing her so happy, like this, autistic girl. Dude, I was trying so hard to not just be beside myself and like be an absolute freaking train wreck and just bawl. So anyways, like as I'm like trying to hold back tears as they're like telling me these stories, and I see like how happy these girls are with my dog as we're about to leave, as I'm back from the trip, I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I gotta make it to the car. And so I go back to the car, I bawl my eyes out, and dude, just like stuff like that, man, where nothing touches that. Being able to offer something or extend yourself to someone that is in a place of more misfortune, or maybe doesn't have it as good as you, and you're able to tangibly see this blessing, like, dude, nothing touches that. Like, that's just so fulfilling. So anyways, I think another way that the INFJ can feel kind of misunderstood is, we have obviously such a deep level of concern for the people that are closest to us. So much so that I think being around them for too long can rapidly transition into feeling depleted. Like, it's literally a night and day difference between my like outgoing personality versus like my alone, don't me personality. And we need to normalize those spaces of being alone without feeling this added pressure to always be available to people. I think it's good to honor the times when you need to be alone and you need to process. Otherwise, you get too many tabs open in your brain, and then that makes you susceptible to burnout. Everyone's attention is limited, but if you can recognize and be intentional about placing it on the right things, you could spend a great deal of time unraveling the intricacies of one singular experience, as opposed to trying to focus your attention span on like 15 different things. And you can walk away with so much more than that initial impression. How limited my attention can be is that it's better to focus on one meaningful thing than 100 half-hearted things. So anyways, guys, that's all I got. I hope you feel more understood. This video, I realized, was honestly all over the place. I hope you can walk away with something of value, and you feel, you just feel more understood, man. So I got you. I care about you guys. Love y'all, and thanks for watching.